Hi there. Welcome to ABC10 Plus. I'm Brandon Rittiman. In the months leading up to the 2024 election, we put a simple call out to the voters who watch us. Ask us any question that might help you to vote. And it turns out you had a lot. Just who actually does the counting? What if I live overseas and want to vote for the first time? She wanted to know what she could do about the potential for her ballot to be stolen. ABC10 put together a whole voter outreach team. We went out to listen to voters at nearly 40 events around the greater Sacramento region, and we got hundreds of questions from you in person, also online. Our team worked to answer all of them. Whenever we saw a question and thought, I bet a lot more people are wondering about that, we put the answer on the air. Right now, this is your opportunity to learn what we all learned together this election cycle. Thanks to the curiosity of your voting neighbors, we all get to become more informed voters together. Presidential elections can feel a little weird in California, and we're getting some questions about the reason why. The Electoral College. Bianca in Oakdale asked us, how does my vote help if the electoral votes are what matters? Are electoral votes only for president? Thank you, Bianca. And yes, electoral votes are only for the presidential race. The electors are going to meet in all of the states on December 17th to cast the actual votes for president in the Electoral College. Your vote matters because the popular vote in California decides who will get our 54 electoral votes. The political assumption is that Kamala Harris is going to win California because we're a blue state, but it only happens if more people cast ballots for her than Donald Trump come the November election. Given the political makeup of our state, it might not feel like your vote counts, but by law, it does. Your vote decides who gets California's electoral votes. And we do have more of those than any other state, which brings me to a related question we got from Mark in Folsom. He asked, you can win the majority vote, but still lose. How's that fair? Of course, that actually happened just back in 2016, and California is right at the heart of it. Donald Trump got 304 electoral votes, well above the 270 it takes to win the White House. He won even though Hillary Clinton beat him by 3 million votes nationwide. Guess which state all those votes came from? Right here, California. In fact, Clinton won California by more than 4 million votes. But it doesn't matter if you win California by 1 vote or by millions. All you can win are the electoral votes we actually have. As the most populated state, California has 52 seats in the House of Representatives, and we get an electoral vote for each and every one. We also get another 2 electoral votes for our 2 seats in the Senate. Now compare that to Wyoming, the least populated state. They only have 1 seat in the House, so 1 electoral vote for that. But as a state, they get the same 2 votes that we do for their 2 U.S. Senate seats. So really, your beef is with the U.S. Senate, Mark. The structure of the Senate gives more political power to the cows of Wyoming than the people of California, and that's what our election process is based on. It's not fair to California voters. The Electoral College is skewed against California more than any other state. The only thing fair about it is that both sides have to play the same game. They both know how many electoral votes each state has, and they both know it's going to take 270 to win. Great questions, Mark and Bianca. Thank you so much, and happy voting. Nicole in Sacramento and Stelina in Elk Grove both asked us, where do I vote? You can vote anywhere you want, Nicole and Stelina, because California is an all-mail ballot state. Elections are not a one-day thing anymore. You have almost a month to cast your ballot. Counties started to mail the ballots on October 7th, so if you were registered, you should have gotten it by now. If you want to vote in person, you can still do that. Counties will start opening their in-person vote centers on October 26th. If you still need to register, you didn't get your ballot, or you want to look up an in-person polling place, we can help with that. Just go to abc10.com/vote. We've got links to get you all set up to vote. The cutoff to register to vote online is October 21st. After that, you're going to have to go in person to your county election office or to one of those vote centers when they open for business. Thank you so much for the questions, Nicole and Stelina, and happy voting. Colleen in North Highlands asked us to tell her about all the new propositions. We've got 10 statewide props this year. Some of the issues you'll be voting on are rent control, crime, same-sex marriage, and billions worth of government spending. These can be daunting because you're being asked to vote yes or no on new laws, and some of them can be pretty complicated. We made short videos explaining what a yes or no vote would mean on each of the propositions. We're not here to convince you how to vote. We just brief you so you know what's actually in the new laws you're being asked to approve. You can watch all those videos right now here on ABC10+. Just grab your remote, hit the down button, and you should see menus popping up around me. Go up, click News, then down again until you see Election 2024. We got a lot of questions about the props, which we're going to get to, but we also got good questions about the basics of the election. James reached out earlier in the cycle to ask just who actually does the counting after you send your ballot in. It's a good question, James. Local county election offices hire a small army of temporary workers to run elections. The counting itself is done by machines, but people put in a lot of grunt work to make all of it happen. In Sacramento County, you can actually just go down and take a tour, so we went. Welcome to the place your ballot goes. Sometimes our cameras get special access to give you a peek behind the curtain, but this isn't that. You can come on down here yourself.
Think of it like an adult field trip. You could go out, learn something new, find out what happens to your ballot after you've cast it. We're constantly trying to educate voters on what happens with their ballot. There's a lot of information out there. There's a ton of misinformation out there.
To debunk the myths and ease concerns, the county opens up the vote count center to public tours. Our tour wasn't very full. It was just us and a state government analyst watching these ballots come in.
Our job is election integrity, and we're making sure every voter only gets to vote once.
To keep your votes secret and safe, ballots have to be handled by 2 people minimum. Workers take the ballots to a special room in back.
So this is our industrial mail sorter. It can scan about 30,000 to 40,000 mail pieces per hour. So in a given election, depending on the turnout, we can expect to scan about 1.5 million scans through this machine. So we keep her very busy.
The ballots shoot through this machine twice. First, to scan your signature on the outside of the envelope so the election workers can verify it.
All of our permanent staff are trained by a retired forensic FBI document examiner annually, so we all receive that training, and then we train our temporary staff in the things that they're looking for.
The workers typically reject a little more than 1% of the signatures, and the county contacts those voters to help them verify. Ballots with good signatures on the envelopes go back to the machine for sorting. We have so many cities, fire districts, school districts, and the like in Sacramento County, they have to print 185 different versions of the ballot.
Because my next door neighbor and I have the same ballot, but mom across town has a different ballot than I do.
Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
The machine sorts and bundles those different versions together.
Everything stays by voting precinct. So this machine is incredibly important, and if we didn't have this machine, there's really no way we'd be able to do this by hand.
Election workers use another machine to help pluck the ballots out. Your name and signature stay on the envelope. Once the envelope's gone, there's no way to tell who any ballot belongs to.
Even in our system in the office, we don't know how people voted, so we never know that.
With the envelopes gone...
So this is our ballot tabulation room. This is the most secure room in this building.
The tour doesn't go in that room. We only get to look through the windows.
Nothing's connected to the internet. It's never connected to any other network.
The security is to protect the integrity of the results, but also to keep election results from leaking early. People started sending their ballots in early October, but by law, the results aren't allowed to be added up until the polls close on election night.
So even though we start scanning maybe a week or so before, we don't know how any race is looking. We don't know what the results are.
Yeah, like the information in these machines is actually prized information,
Yes.
right?
So even we cannot look at that. We can't run it, we can't know. So the very first time that's run is about 8:15 on election night when we report for the first time.
You can help by voting early. More early votes means more results already loaded when the polls close, means clearer results on election night.
Also, just don't drink coffee near your ballot.
Oh yeah, and don't mess up your ballot. If you spill on it or you make weird marks other than clearly bubbling in your vote, a 2-person team has to fill out a whole new clean ballot by hand and send it back for your vote to be counted. If you want to see all this, come on down. The county will keep offering 4 tours a week, even in the weeks after Election Day, while the results are audited and certified. This question comes from someone at one of our Natomas events, a voter who asked not to share her name. She wanted to know what she could do about the potential for her ballot to be stolen. We talked a little about why. She's got a community mailbox. Thieves have broken in before. So apart from reporting a break-in to the authorities, she wanted to know what can she do to guard against ballots being stolen. First, I need to calm nerves a little bit here, and we should just acknowledge that stealing ballots, it's not a common occurrence. If you're a thief, you'd have to hit a lot of mailboxes to influence the election, and every one you hit is going to be a federal crime, so not really worth it. But in any event, yes, there is something you can do if you're concerned about the security of your mailbox. Pull up your browser right now and type where'smyballot.sos.ca.gov. You can sign up for text and email alerts that are going to let you know when the county mails your ballot out to you and when they accept your ballot after you fill it out and send it back to be counted. This way, you're going to have an idea when to expect your ballot in the mail. It's super easy. And this way, if something happens to your mailbox, you'll be able to see whether you should have gotten your ballot by now or not. Again, where'smyballot.sos.ca.gov. State law requires the counties to begin mailing out ballots no later than October 7th to voters who already registered. Mateo on YouTube asked us, what if I live overseas and want to vote for the first time? You can do that, but you'll want to hurry. Go to abc10.com/links and look for the link on there titled California Military and Overseas Voting. If you or a loved one is overseas and you haven't voted that way before, you gotta complete a new registration and select the option to register as a military and overseas voter. You can ask for your ballot by mail, which might be a little too slow depending on where in the world you are, or you can get it by email or fax. Election day is November 5th. You get a 7-day grace period to get your ballot completed and sent to your county election office. That is November 12th. Again, can be a challenge when we're talking about mail going overseas. There is an option for overseas voters to fax their votes into the county. It does require a little more paperwork you got to fill out. Go to abc10.com/links. Again, that's where we have the information for military and overseas voting. A few additional steps you got to take, but you should be able to make your vote count. Thanks so much for the question, Mateo. Happy voting. In California, candidates are allowed to write short blurbs about themselves to go in the official state and local voter guides you get in the mail. Patty in Escalon heard of a controversy about those in another state, and she asked us, does the candidate have to pay a fee to have their information added to the voter pamphlet and the ballot? Patty, thank you so much for asking. I have covered politics a long time, and I learned new things working on your question. Turns out, in California, the state and county governments do charge candidates a fee to have their statements printed in the official voter guides. The fees help cover the cost of printing and mailing these guides out to millions of voters, and the cost can vary wildly, depending on the race that's up for election and where in California it is. For a lot of candidates, we're only talking a few $100 to get their statement into the guide, but the fees go up from there. Candidates in a couple of congressional races, they have to pay almost $30,000 to have a few paragraphs printed in San Bernardino's county voter guide, according to the Secretary of State. Some candidates simply choose not to pay. That keeps them out of the blurbs in the guide, but not off of your ballot, Patty. The rules for getting on the ballot are different depending on which office you run for. For most big races, you've got the option to pay a filing fee that comes into about $1,000 to $4,000, or you can turn in a few thousand signatures from voters on a petition instead of having to pay that fee. Thanks so much for enlightening me and all of us, Patty. Happy voting. Welcome to the 2024 election cycle. We all know it's a presidential year, but here in California, you've got a lot more decisions to make than that one. The next biggest race is for U.S. Senate. This Senate seat hasn't come open in a long time. The last time it was truly up for grabs was 1992, when the late Senator Dianne Feinstein first won it. Congress has no term limits. Feinstein kept this seat for 31 years until her death last September. Senator LaFonza Butler, appointed to fill the seat, isn't running. So your choices now are Democrat Adam Schiff and Republican Steve Garvey, the top two vote-getters in the primary. You'll also be voting on a congressperson no matter which of California's 52 districts you happen to live in, because the House has 2-year terms. Same goes for the state assembly, with all 80 seats up for election. There's a 50-50 chance you'll also be voting for state senate. They have 4-year terms, so half of the 40 seats come up for election each year. Depending on your location, situation, you might have a lot of local candidates and issues to vote on, or relatively few. But statewide, we all get a chance to be lawmakers because California has 10 statewide propositions on your ballot. These would enact new laws on issues from taxes to crime to rent control. The numbering system's a bit wonky, but you're going to see Props 2 through 6 all put on your ballot by an act of the legislature, and another batch, Props 32 through 36, those came from interest groups with clipboards in your grocery store parking lot asking for your signature. You have the right to cast a vote on every race on your ballot, but you don't have to. That's a myth. Leaving parts of your ballot blank is just called undervoting. It doesn't stop your votes on the other races from counting. It just means you're leaving those specific choices up to other people. One part of the ballot where undervoting tends to happen a lot is that list of ballot propositions. Just go to abc10.com/vote and you can find our video explainers. We break down each and every prop so you know exactly what your yes or your no vote would mean, because you deserve to feel confident about your choices when you're deciding on new laws. You have decisions to make at the local, state, and federal level, and you asked us great questions about races at all three. We got a question from Will that seems to come up every election. He says, I am a registered independent. Will there be coverage related to other candidates that don't have the funding the major parties have? Thank you, Will. And to answer you straight, probably not. First of all, in California, this question really only applies to the presidential race. For all the other races, the top 2 vote getters in the primary, those are the ones that appear on the November ballot right now. With only a handful of exceptions, almost all the candidates for Congress and the state legislature, they are Democrats, they are Republicans. The race for president is different because it involves party nominations. We've got 6 candidates for president on your ballot. Vice President Kamala Harris for the Democrats, of course, and former President Donald Trump for the Republicans. We all know that. But then there's Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He dropped out and endorsed Trump. Jill Stein, a perennial candidate for the Green Party. Chase Oliver for the Libertarian Party. And Claudia de la Cruz for the Peace and Freedom Party. All of them have candidate statements that you can read in the online voter guide, but I'm not going to sugarcoat it, Will. I would be shocked if you hear anybody talk about these minor party candidates on the news again after this segment right now. Minor party candidates often get no support in the polls, and if they do, it's like 1 or 2%. They're just not realistically poised to become president. Traditionally, third-party candidates don't get invited to the debates unless they have 15% support in the polls. Now, you can argue if the lesser-known candidates got more news coverage, they might have more of a shot. It's not wrong, but really, this is a chicken and egg thing. In the news business, it's not our role to hatch a new political movement. It's our job to cover the politics we actually have, because that's what's going to decide who runs our government. If a third party starts to win big races, they're going to start earning more news coverage. I promise you that. We are always watching for it. This question involves a political ad that shocked people across the country with graphic images. We're not going to show it here. A lesser-known presidential candidate ran an attack ad against Kamala Harris showing gory pictures of human fetuses to make arguments about abortion. The ad aired here on ABC10 multiple times in recent weeks during ABC network programming. And as you can imagine, we've gotten lots of complaints and questions. Jeff emailed me to ask, hi, Brandon. I would like to know how Channel 10 is being forced to show that vile, disgusting, horrifying TV commercial. What law can make any TV station do that? If I was a political candidate, could I show anything I wanted in a TV commercial? How about porn? Jeff, your beef is with the Federal Communications Commission. The FCC makes legally binding rules for the public airwaves that TV and radio stations broadcast on. Broadcasters are legally prohibited by the FCC from censoring a candidate ad. If a PAC wanted to run an ad with the same gory images, it could be rejected. But if the ad comes from a candidate, stations and networks aren't allowed to censor it. In fact, broadcasters are required to sell ads to federal candidates and at discount rates. The ABC network, which does not own ABC10, by the way, did the only thing it could.
The following is a paid political advertisement, and the ABC television network is required to carry it by federal law.
It put disclaimers before and after the ad to warn viewers of the disturbing images and explain the ad has to be allowed to run. As for your other question, Jeff, what if a candidate tried to run an ad with sexually graphic images? I called up some FCC and media law experts I know. They debate questions like yours over coffee. I'm told it's uncharted legal territory, Jeff, but their general thinking is Broadcasters probably can reject a candidate ad if it were to have porn in it, and that's because the FCC has other rules against what it defines as obscene or indecent content. Those rules are all about images and cuss words related to sex and other private body parts. But the FCC has made it clear the ad you asked us about has to air. He's showing graphic images to make a political argument. He has a First Amendment right to this speech. And because he's a candidate, the FCC also gives him the right to do that on the air if he buys the ad time. I've only got one silver lining for you on this, Jeff. Come November 6th, it's not going to be a thing for a while. The rules that require broadcasters to sell TV ads to candidates, they only apply in the 60 days before an election. Jeff asked us, will you cover Measure E in the city of Sacramento? Be happy to, Jeff. Measure E, the city's only measure this year, was put on your ballot by the city council. It's a big deal for the city's library branches. The Sacramento Public Library has 12 out of its 28 branches located in Sacramento city limits, and about a third of the money for those branches is at stake with Measure E. I checked with the Sacramento Public Library system. If Measure E fails, they say, the city's library branches would have to cut hours, down to 4 days a week, possibly less. Going back 2 decades, City of Sacramento voters repeatedly approved new parcel taxes. It's a special kind of property tax for the libraries. They raise a combined $9.5 million a year. But those taxes came with sunsets, expiration dates that are coming up in 2026 and 2027. Measure E would simply remove the expiration dates. The parcel taxes for libraries would become permanent, and they'd merge down into one line item on your property tax bill. The tax is $54.50 on every house in Sacramento city limits, lower amounts for apartments, condos, and mobile homes, bigger amounts for businesses, but it's all a continuation of the taxes that Sacramentans have already been paying for years now. The library tax would continue to adjust up for inflation up to 3% a year, the way it already does. A yes vote on Measure E approves continuing the City of Sacramento's parcel tax for the libraries indefinitely, avoiding cuts to library hours and services. A no vote allows the library taxes to expire, saving the typical homeowner about $54 a year and forcing the libraries to make cuts. We keep getting great questions from you online and out in the community. While I was out at the Natomas Library for one of our events, I talked to a voter named Ariel, and she had a great question I'm guessing a lot of you also might want an answer to. She wanted to know how to find out who's funding those campaigns for all those ballot propositions. This one's easy. The California Fair Political Practices Commission actually has a website listing the top 10 contributors for and against all of the props. It can be a little tricky to find it, so we made that easy. Just go to abc10.com/links. You're going to find a link that says Ballot Props Top 10 Campaign Funders. Some of these propositions have backers paying millions and millions of dollars on big ad campaigns. And if you see those ads, I want you to also look at the fine print, because the ads are required to list the major funders under California law. We know those ballot propositions can drive people mad trying to figure out the details. That's why we've got videos breaking down all 10 props, so you know exactly what it means if you vote yes or you vote no. You can get those videos right now here on ABC 10 Plus. On your remote, just click down, then go up to news. A lot of you had specific questions about the props, and we took those on too. We keep getting great questions from you about the ballot propositions. One of them, Prop 2, asks you to approve $10 billion in bonds for school buildings. Susan out in Fair Oaks saw that and went, wait a second. She emailed, Californians passed a proposition that established the lottery. It was supposed to solve all our problems for funding schools in California. Now we have on the ballot to increase funding again for schools? When does it stop? Can you please share with me the information as to where the money goes for the millions of dollars brought in by the lottery?
California is going from no lottery to a fully operational lottery by the middle of April.
California voters approved the lottery as a way to raise money for education. It was back in 1984.
Based on our calculations, we're looking at a figure of approximately $680 million for public education.
No one argues over California schools' need for more money. The argument is over where the money should come from.
We really don't need to have the lottery in order to raise money for education in California.
I don't know if it's quite fair to say that the lottery was ever meant to solve all our problems funding schools.
It should be seen as supplemental and extra, and not as the overall salvation for public education.
The official voter guide back in 1984 forecast that the lottery was going to raise $500 million a year for education, which turned out to be about right. $400 million of that was for K-12 schools, which was only a 2.6% increase to the $15.5 billion K-12 budget back then. Today, the lottery raises $2.3 billion. $1.7 billion goes to K-12. That's only 1.3% of today's $133.8 billion K-12 budget. These figures reveal that California's K-12 spending went up faster than inflation and population growth for the past 4 decades. Even if we adjust the 1984 education spending for inflation and we factor in the population growth of school-aged kids, we've still managed to more than double our spending on K-12 public schools. That's partly because California voters have a tendency to say yes when they're asked to approve more education money. Case in point, back in 1984, not only did voters approve the lottery to raise $500 million for education, they also approved Prop 26 that year, which took out $450 million in bonds to fix and build school facilities. This shows that voters knew the lottery wasn't going to raise enough money to fix all our problems with school funding. $450 million back in 1984, by the way, works out to $1.8 billion today when you adjust for population growth and inflation. But in this year's Prop 2, you're being asked to approve $10 billion for school construction. That's 5 times as much money, which is a crude way of showing you that the cost of building schools has shot up even more than the cost of running them. Sharon asked us about Prop 32, the minimum wage question. She wants to know, will raising the minimum wage continue to drive restaurant prices even higher? Well, we have a whole video explaining Prop 32 and its plan to increase California's minimum wage to $18 an hour instead of the forecast $16.50 next year. And the answer, Sharon, is not a sure thing, but it could lead to a bigger check for your next meal. Whenever labor costs go up, business owners have options for dealing with that. Raising prices is one of them, if it doesn't scare the customers away. Businesses can also keep prices the same and just absorb the cost, reducing their profits. Others might say employees could do with less of those, and that's why you can't just walk up to a Taco Bell counter anymore and tell somebody what you want. They replace the workers with you. You got to do the work of tapping the screen to build your order. And whatever your guilty fast food pleasure, Sharon, I should tell you Prop 32 shouldn't make that cost more because California recently enacted a new special minimum wage of $20 an hour for most fast food workers. That's not going to change whether Prop 32 passes or fails. Thank you so much for the question, Sharon. Now I'm hungry, though. We got a question about Prop 36. As we explained in our series of videos, Prop 36 would upgrade some drug and theft crimes from misdemeanors to felonies. That means longer sentences for convicts to be served in state prisons instead of county jails. Our question came from an anonymous person who's clearly got doubts about this plan. They asked, should Prop 36 pass and consequently the prison population explodes, where will the funding to cover the $147,000 a year per additional inmate come from? First, I'm not exactly sure where that number comes from, but it's not too far off. $133,000 a year is the cost to house an inmate, according to state analysts. The cost includes all the health care and security and the overhead for the prisons. As for the prison population exploding, the state's nonpartisan fiscal analyst did make a forecast on that. California's prison population today is about 90,000 inmates. If Prop 36 were to pass, they tell us, the prison population could increase by a few thousand people at a taxpayer cost ranging from several tens of millions of dollars to the low hundreds of millions of dollars each year. That's less than 0.5% of the state general fund budget. And to answer the question about how that would be paid for, Prop 36 would need to be paid for by factoring it into the state budget in future years. We cannot tell you how future legislatures would do that, but they would have to balance it with either cuts or revenue of some kind. That's because Prop 36 comes with no new taxes and no plan at all to raise the money to pay for housing the additional inmates. Thanks so much for the question, and happy voting. We've seen a lot of political ads flying back and forth about Prop 33, the statewide vote on rent control, and we're hearing from plenty of you questioning those ads. Christian in Sacramento told us, I hear about one-sided stuff. If it passes this rent control, is it going to hurt affordable housing? Beth in Stockton also asked us to clarify what Prop 33 does. I'm confused. We've got a whole video explaining Prop 33 in more detail, but here's the deal. Both sides are making big claims to try to convince you of what will happen if Prop 33 were to pass. And the truth is, neither side knows for sure what would happen. And that's because Prop 33 is a rent control question that doesn't actually have any new rent control in it. All Prop 33 would do is allow local city and county governments to pass more kinds of rent control than they're allowed to pass right now. We don't know how many cities and counties are going to pass new rent controls if they're allowed to do so, or how strict those new rent controls would be. Right now, cities and counties have restrictions. They cannot put rent control on single-family standalone homes, apartments built after 1995, or control the price of rent for new people signing new leases, only people renewing a lease. Those restrictions would all go away under Prop 33, but what happens next is going to be up to city council members and county supervisors all across California. Both sides will tell you their way is better for affordable housing, and that's because rent control can help make housing more affordable by keeping the rent down, but it can also have side effects that push rent up. If a city passes really strict rent controls, some landlords will choose to sell, taking homes off the rental market. That means less supply, and when you have less supply but high demand, the prices go up. So no matter which side you hear making big claims about what will happen if Prop 33 passes, take it with a grain of salt, because all we know for sure is that it would make more rent controls possible. We don't know yet where and what those new rent controls will be. Again, we can demystify all 10 of those statewide props for you right now here on ABC 10 Plus. We have that, also our forum with the Sacramento mayor candidates, and a whole bunch more election coverage. Again, on your remote, tap the down button. Then you're going to go up to news, then back down to find the election category. Whether we answered your question on air or emailed your answer back, I just want to take a second to say thanks. It's important we have an informed electorate, and this gave all of us a chance to help one another. So thank you for asking. Thank you for watching. I'm Brandon Rittiman. Happy voting.